Welcome to the art room. Mrs. Larrabee here. This week we're making caramel apples. I wish they were as tasty as the real thing, but they're gonna look yummy just like the real thing. If you haven't had a chance, go up and watch the interview with our Orcut artist, Joy Henderson. She tells us about what it's been like with art through the years for her. And I love looking at her artwork. It's so colorful. The colors that she chooses, the way she puts them together is just beautiful. And I have a little bit more of the interview here where she's going to talk about how we can help develop that eye for color. So that's going to be our focus today. Here's the supplies we need to get first though. You need a piece of paper, a pencil with an eraser or a pencil and an eraser, your coloring supplies, and if you have an apple somewhere handy, grab that too. If not, I have a few here. We'll look at them together. Let's go back and watch a little bit of the interview that I didn't include above. She's going to tell us one practice that we could do that would help us learning to truly see color.
What could you tell us has been a practice that you've done or something that you would encourage other artists to do as they're developing an eye for color? Because that's something that's always stood out to me in your paintings is the colors that you use.
The class I took last semester at Hancock for oil painting, it helped so much with color. We focused a lot on the color wheel, and I think that's really important. You can just looking at the different shades that are across from each other, you can get that idea of which colors are going to contrast, and also just looking at your surroundings. And if you're looking outside, taking a walk, or just in the car, just paying attention to the colors and the different depths and shadows. It kind of gets your eye used to this realistic color, and it will help when you bring it in to your painting because you're able to see, instead of using like a neon green, maybe that you would think for grass or trees, you're able to kind of create this deeper, more dark green that's closer to the real item.
One of the things I love that she mentioned in this is the color wheel. I'm a color wheel fan. You guys have probably picked up on that by now. I just think it's so fascinating how these colors blend together. So fascinating how we can use color theory to help us look at different colors and how they might go together. She mentioned colors across each other from the color wheel, which is complementary colors, and they're complement each other by making each other look brighter. So if you're looking at the color wheel, blue and orange are complementary colors, red and green are complementary colors, yellow and purple are complementary colors. When you use those colors together, it creates energy in your picture. If you think about those colors, you can name sports teams or schools or holidays that revolve around complementary colors because they work so well together. So with that in mind, she talked about how we can observe color better. She actually mentioned grass as one of her examples. So let's look at this picture of grass. And if I were to say, what color is the grass in this picture? A usual response would be green, and totally right, it is green. If we look at it more deeply though, it's not just green, right? It has some yellow in it. It has a dark green that's so dark it almost looks black in the shadow. And then it has all these ranges in between. And this is what makes it look realistic. So what we're going to do today is we're going to be drawing a caramel apple. We're going to be looking at the colors and coloring realistically, and then we're going to have fun decorating our apple. All right, the first thing we need to do is draw our apple. I want you to put one hand at the top of your paper. We're going to start drawing our apple on the bottom half, so this just gives you enough space at the top. I'm going to go down a few inches from my hand and start about here. And the apple is roughly a heart shape on the side. If we were to cut this in half and look at one side, generally they have a wider curve at the top and it tapers down. Some are more round. If you have a different shaped apple, draw the shape that you see, but we're just going to be drawing this outside edge or contour of the apple. I kind of like to draw one side at a time. I'm using light sketching lines because I know that I'll need to erase some of these. I don't want to make it too dark. A lot of times these apples go down and then they might flatten out a little towards the bottom. And back on this side. They don't have to be completely symmetrical. That means the same on both sides. All right. Then we can go in and edit out the lines that don't work. And there we have our shape of an apple. All right, we're going to decide next the stick. There's a stick usually coming out the top of them, right? So it's not a straw. It's actually the stick that you can hold the apple by. So decide in your picture how high you want the stick to be and draw a very tiny oval at the top. This is going to be the top of your stick. And then you can draw a straight line down and then a parallel line from the other side. Mine didn't quite line up in the middle. That's fine. All right, and then decide how much caramel is going to be on your apple. Totally your choice here. I'm going to make mine kind of a wavy line of where my caramel is going to be on my apple. And we're ready. The first thing we're going to focus on is the realistic part of our apple, and then we're going to have fun decorating our apple from there. I'm going to be using this one as a guide. I'm going to leave these other two here if you guys want to look along with the apples that I have. This one's kind of cool. It has these dashes on it. It's really neat. I'll leave these out in case you want to look at these guys. All right, so I'm going to be doing this one, and I'm going to just start laying out my colors. I see red in this. I definitely see yellow. I see some orange. And I have this lighter red in my pencils too, so I'm going to use that. I don't have a pink per se, but if you did, you could. I'll pull in this light green as well because I had seen a little bit of light green in the top here. And then I'm going to choose what side of my apple I'm going to draw. I'm kind of into this yellow on the side. So I like to start shaping in first. So I'm going to lightly draw just a little bit of where this yellow is going to be. I'm going to have a little red showing on the other side. This might be hard to show up. I'm going to go in with my mid color, and I'm going to start coloring in the red. So this first step of coloring in, at least this is how I go. I know some of us have crayons, some of us have colored pencils. I generally like to lightly go in first and not do my dark colors yet, and then come back and add my dark colors in. I'll speed things up while I'm laying in my color sections, and then we'll talk some more about how we add some detail to it. I've simply blocked in the main areas of color. So I took my yellow, there's orange, there's red. Super neat because we know that red and yellow make orange. It makes sense that the parts that have a little orange are where this red and yellow are overlapping. And then my darker red's kind of to this side. And I noticed there was a little bit of red coming off the top. And those are things that by observation we notice that add those details that make things look more realistic. All right, so I have blocked my colors in. Doesn't necessarily at this point look like a realistic apple. I mean, we're getting close. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to go in and I'm going to start overlapping some of my colors and making them a little more solid. I'm going to start down here in this corner. I'm using my lighter red. I'm going to solidify this. I also know we've talked about shading. The sides of my apples look a little darker than the front where the light's hitting them. So I'm going to go in and add this brighter color now that I have it blocked in. I know where that color needs to go. This is kind of like when we did the plein air painting and we did a value study. That's what we just did. We just did a value study with our colors. Now we're going to go in and do the actual painting, add the extra details. Now I'm going to go back with my darker red. I'm using lines that mimic the curve of the apple because I want the viewer to just have that extra little hint that this is three-dimensional and not flat. And I'm just going to keep building up until I've reached the top of my apple. There is light shining on it, so I'm going to try to leave a few spots that show that there's a little bit of reflection. That's showing texture. It's showing that my apple is smooth because the light is reflecting from it. All right, I'm going to go over and begin this in the yellow section. I'm going to really overlap this orange. I'm going to let it bump into the parts of my apple that have red. And then I'll even go back with my red, my lighter red, and color straight over it. I'm getting that red mixed in with the orange, which is totally what it looks like in real life on the apple. All right, there's the top, the realistic side of my apple. I love the things that Joy encouraged us with in her words. She said, don't give up, keep trying. One of the things that she said was take your time. So I only gave you a little bit of apple to do, right? So don't get frustrated, take your time. If you're finding this taking a little longer than you thought, take your time to get it where you're satisfied with it, okay? And then let's go on and talk about adding some caramel. Yummy, yummy caramel. All right, there's so many ways that you can decorate a caramel apple. Let me put this picture up. I put sprinkles on my original design. You get to think for a minute. You could add your favorite candy around the edges. Again, we're gonna probably wanna block in whatever that candy is gonna be on there. I recently saw a candied apple that had Reese's Pieces on it, and that looks super yummy to me. So I'm gonna add, I think they're all orange and yellow, aren't they? I'm gonna add some Reese's Pieces to mine. All right, candied caramel apple is complete almost. So your choice on how you want to do your straw. I sometimes have a hard time deciding what color I want to add to there. So I'm going to think about complementary colors. I have a lot of red and yellow. So the opposite of red would be green. The opposite of yellow would be purple. So one of those would be a really bright, it would make it look bright compared to what was down here if I did. So I'm going to go with green. And you could do your straw kind of how we did our paint cans, where we did it dark on the edges, lighter towards the middle. Will help it look a little more three-dimensional. All right, I hope this project didn't make you too hungry. If you have a chance, please send me these pictures. I would love to see, well, first of all, I'm curious how you're going to decorate your candied apple, but I would also love to see your apple and how you added these colors in, and this idea of observing and adding realistic colors, looking at all the different variations. All right, my friends, have a wonderful week. I'll see you next time.